Hey Facebook, hey Instagram, hello. Welcome, hi. Now, today I'm doing part 2 of this video, which is all about brewing kombucha. So last night you've seen how you actually brew everything, and I've got the brew there in the big giant pot. So now I'm actually going to show you how you take it to the next part, which is actually put it in the bottles and store it. As you can probably see here, I've got quite a few bottles. Now, these are old kombucha bottles. This is GT's kombucha. It's been store bought. But what I've done is I've kept the bottles because they're glass. They're big enough, and that's exactly what they're designed for. I've got a bang load of those. Probably got about 20 odd bottles now. I just store stuff in there. I'm going to slowly start building this up as well. So as time goes on, I can get more and more, and we can store the kombucha. I've got my old brew here, which you can still see we have in there. So that's the kombucha that's been brewed that I'm now going to put into the bottles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer the new brew in here with the scobies. And what I'm going to do is show you one of the scobies as well, which would be interesting for you. So if we just get a big bowl. One of the things, before you brew anything with kombucha, what you need to do is get a job lot of white distilled vinegar. I think we get 2 gallons of this for about $4 or $5. It's not expensive. So the bowl that we're about to put the SCOBY in, you just swish some vinegar in it. Now it's been cleaned with soap and water, but if you use vinegar, because it's really acidic, it destroys any of the bacteria. And the good thing about vinegar is for kombucha, because it's acidic anyway, it actually helps it keeps it healthy, and it stops all the bugs and mold and all sorts. So now that I've done that, I'll put that to the side. So I'm going to take this. I know it looks like an Arab with his headdress on, but it's actually just a tea towel. So take this off, and then we've got the SCOBY on the top there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this SCOBY out, just tear it out of the way. Oh, just take that off. That's one. Got him out of the way. Now you can see there's a wire that's dangling in here. What I've done, just to keep mine at the right temperature, I've got a tiny little aquarium heater. I think it's a 15 watt, oh no, it's 25 watt, that one. And all that does is that just sits in there and just keeps it at a constant temperature. So no matter what's happening with the heating in the house, no matter how cold it gets in the kitchen, it stays at a constant between 77 and 78 Fahrenheit, which is 25, 26 Celsius. That's the ideal brewing temperature for kombucha, which is perfect. So let's move this out of the way. That's the old SCOBY, it's the one on top. So you keep that, just put that aside, and then you can use that. Next thing we're going to use, as I'm going to just use this to move the SCOBY away from the bottom there, because it's actually stopping the liquid getting out. And then the next stage for this is really simple. You have your funnel. I should have had it here. Where is it? Strainer as well. Oh, someone managed to lose that. Hold on. Oh, there we go. So a strainer. And what I do is I put that top of the funnel just to catch any of the bits, because you can see, hopefully there, the SCOBY, there's a few little bits come off it. And then it's just a case of open up the tap and let it flow out and just fill up the bottles. Now that's caught a little bit. So it looks like, there we go. SCOBY's just getting in the way. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of manipulation to get it working. There we go. So that's the SCOBY out of the way, and now I'm just filling up the bottles with the kombucha. Now the important thing with this, you can see the levels starting to drive down now. It's starting to sort of sink. What you have to do is leave some of the liquid in the bottom for the next batch, because that's got all the bacteria in it. We call it basically a starter liquid. And it just makes sure that it's healthy and the brew's healthy, and that gives it the bacteria to start off. So there's one. Now for any of you that are actually timing this just to see how long it takes, you probably realise that we're probably all in about a minute in terms of actually getting the brew ready. So fill up each of these in turn. There's a SCOBY getting in the way again. There we go. And it keeps going. Now you can see the levels going down quite a bit now. And what we'll do in a second is I'll get some of the other scobies out. I'll let you see them. Because I thought with it being like a bacterial culture, it was going to be kind of all weird. There's going to be all sorts of random stuff in it, but actually it's not. It just kind of looks like a big bit of rubber almost, which is kind of weird in itself. There we go, there's the next one done. So it's 2 done. Not the most interesting part of the video, I'm sorry, but we'll get on there. So again, move that out of the way. And then start off again. And off we go. So what I generally do, because of this glass jar, so this container I got from Target, it was about $20. Makes life so much easier because it's got the tap on the front. And it means I don't have to lift these up, try and decant them into bottles. I just put it under the tap and away we go. Makes things a lot easier. I've got 3 bottles. So I'll pull out another one. And that should be us. Nearly there. Turn the tap off. There 3. Now all these bottles I've washed with soap and water, and then what I do afterwards is I always rinse them with vinegar. So just put maybe half an inch of vinegar in the bottom, then I'll give it a good shake. Just make sure the vinegar circulates and it kills off any other bacteria that's maybe not been killed with soap and water. So it just keeps everything fresh and everything clean. Because this is a bacterial culture, because it's not been pasteurised, if you haven't been meticulous with the hygiene, then there's a potential that you could end up sort of nasties getting in there, which is not great. Nearly there. So we're getting to the bottom of it now. Just tap that up to get the last little bit. Nearly there. Right, so you got 4 bottles of that. Done. Alright, we just take this out of the way. If I get my bowl again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out one of these scobies and I'll show you just exactly what they're like. So this is a smaller one. I don't know if you can see that well. So it's almost like I don't know how you would describe it. It's like kind of like rubber. That's fairly thick. You can see that one, that's probably what, 3/4 of an inch thick. It's kind of rubbery, kind of squidgy. What I do is when I tend to get too many of these, I put them in one of my shakes. I'm just come back to the gym so you can eat them. It does taste like you're eating slime, just be warned, that's exactly what it tastes like. But it's perfectly healthy and perfectly good for you. I know a lot of people, they feed them to the dogs. Dogs apparently quite like kombucha. I don't know the dog, but I can only assume that's true. So if you have got a dog and you've got too many of these, then you can obviously get rid of them and feed them to the dog. So what I do now, and there's 2 or 3 ways you can do this. Obviously I've got these bottled up now, so I'll just move those out of the way. You can then, if you wish, take one of the scobies and create like a little SCOBY hotel. So just to remind you, SCOBY, symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So that's what does all the goodness. That's what puts all the goodness into your kombucha. So what you can do is, so this one for example, if I take this and I get some of the kombucha brew, I get some vinegar and I pour a load of it in, and I can keep it in this jar, this bowl, that'd be a good example. So long as it's covered and you've got some of the kombucha brew in it, you can keep this and store it for a later date, just in case something happens to this one, gets too hot, too cold, or God forbid some of the fruit flies get in and lay some eggs on it, and you need to bin it, you've got your culture there. The good thing about this is it's self-fulfilling and it's self-generating, so every brew that you make, on the top you'll end up with a SCOBY that's growing. So every brew you make, you end up with more and more. I'm not sure how well you can see this. If you look in here, I've got SCOBY upon SCOBY upon SCOBY. So there's one. There's another one. You see, they actually get quite big. So I've got a lot of SCOBYs there. So move this over now. So you can see the size that they'll get to. So that one covered the whole top, and it's probably, I don't know, 1/4 inch thick. That's how much that one had grown in about 10 days. So each time you make a brew, you'll get new SCOBYs, and these will just continue to grow. So you're always self-generating, and you're always getting more and more. Just taking out some of the slimy bits here. So this will keep growing, and it's self-generating. So the longer you have a brew, then the more of these SCOBYs that you're going to get. So next thing then, now that we've done all this, is the transfer of the new brew. Now, depending on which way you want to do this, this can be quite messy, or it can be quite clean. I tend to get messy because that's just the kind of guy I am. So what I tend to do with it, just so I'm not damaging the SCOBYs, what I'll tend to do is I'm just going to move one of those cameras so you can just see a bit better. There we go. So what I tend to do is I use a jug, and I will just transfer the liquid so it's not damaging the SCOBY with the water splashing in and out. And that's all we're doing. Put the new brew in. So if I wasn't talking all in to do this, you're probably talking about 3 to 4 minutes. Just transfer it all, as in the old stuff out, put it into the bottles, and then pour the new stuff in. And once that's in, you cover it up, make sure it's properly sealed so you don't get any of the fruit flies laying eggs on it, which is bad, and it stops all the mould as well. And then once you've done that, you leave it for your week to 10 days, depending on how long you want to leave it. I'm just going to go with the strainer again. Just little bits in the brew in here. A few of the tea leaves have got escaped. And then, like I say, you leave that for your week to 10 days. And that is how you get your new brew. And hopefully at the end of it, you've got a lovely, nice tasting kombucha. And there's the last few dregs going in. There you go, perfect. Almost like I've done this before. Move that bit away. Oh, probably the tidiest I've ever been when I've been doing it. So now I just make sure that, for me, that the heater is underneath, but I can still see it. I then plug it in. I then get my tea towel for the top. You can use any material, it doesn't have to be a tea towel. I just use a tea towel because it's a particularly big container that I've got. Put elastic band round, make sure it's sealed nice and tight. Make sure there's no way for the fruit flies to get in. And that's it, done. Leave it for a week to 10 days. What I tend to do is I'll check it, maybe after 3-4 days on the top, just to make sure there's not any mould, make sure it's all sensible. And normally you'll see like a film on the top, and that film will turn kind of white colour. That's your new SCOBY forming. So all you're doing is making sure that that's there, making sure there's no mould, and you'll see mould because it'll grow up the way, whereas the SCOBYs grow down the way into the brew. And they'll get thicker, whereas the mould doesn't tend to get thick, it just tends to, it looks like mould on bread. It's the same sort of thing. Very rare, I've had it I think once, and I've been doing this for quite a while now. I'll check that. I'll generally do a taste test after about 3-4 days just to see how it's going on, and then a taste test in about a week, and then 10 days, depending on how long it takes for the brew to actually get itself established. Once I get to the flavour that I want, then we brew it. Simple as that, we put it in the bottles. Now with these bottles, this is known as the second fermentation. So there's a few ways that you can do this. So this is just plain kombucha. I've not put anything else in it. What you can do is you can add in fruit. You can add in things like ginger. My wife, she particularly likes cayenne. So she basically puts a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne in here, cayenne pepper. Gives it a nice fire when you drink it. So you can flavour these. When you do the second fermentation, what it will do is it will add a little bit of fizz, especially if there's sugar in it, and it will ferment. So when you open it, you'll get that shh, and it'll actually taste like a carbonated drink, which is quite nice sometimes. I prefer it being a bit more flat, but that's personal preference. What you might find is when it's in the bottle as well, around the top of the bottle here, you'll get a secondary SCOBY forming, so you might get the little one. One thing I would say is when you brew your own, just make sure you identify where the SCOBY is, because one of the worst things in the world is not finding it, drinking it, and you end up doing a combination sort of choke, cough, sneeze, splutter thing. When you swallow the SCOBY halfway down, you're not expecting it. I've done that a few times, so just make sure you know what it is. And that's it, done. You just leave those for as long as you want until it gets the flavour you want. Generally, I'll leave them a week to 2 weeks. If my children allow me to leave it that long, they're normally wanting it straight away. But I've got a rotation system on the shelf, so on my top shelf is the newest, second newest, and then the oldest in the bottom. So I know the ones in the bottom, those are the ones that are going to taste the best. And then when I do a new brew, I just move everything down one shelf, and then I know where I'm at. And that's it, done. So I hope you've learned something from that. I would encourage you, definitely brew your own kombucha. It is so nice, so good for you as well. And it's easy as well. It doesn't cost anything other than sugar and tea leaves, which are not expensive at all. And that's it, done, nice and simple. So hope you liked that. If you get any questions, points, thoughts, anything you want to add, put it in the comments, please, and I'll get around to them and I'll answer them. If you get any questions, then feel free to message me as well, because a few of you have been doing that. So that's it for me. Adios, and see you later.